4 of the Chaos Gods now finally have codexes and armies to join them in the grim dark of the 41st millennium. So it's now the best time to finally get into Chaos. Welcome to Tabletop Tactics. I am James Jordan, aka The Bard, and I am joined by Katie Fode, Jinx,
hello,
and Chaos Lord Beard, Mr. Joe Pointing.
Hello there.
It's a very exciting time for Chaos. Some have described it as the year of Chaos, because for the first time in a very long time, narrate ever, all 4 of the mono gods of Chaos all have a fully represented faction in Warhammer 40,000.
Full codex, full, to an extent, army range.
Yeah.
Never been done.
exciting time.
It's a very exciting time for Chaos players and new players alike. So if you've never played Warhammer and you really want to get into it, it's almost a perfect time to get into Chaos. And also, if you've always been a loyalist like myself, but have dipped your toes into the Dark Gods, maybe it's time to dive straight in. Join us in the warp. The warp is lovely and tickly. The Thousand Suns are first up, hot off the press with a new book.
Just released.
Just fresh from the warp itself. So what are the Thousand Suns? I would describe them as space wizards.
Pretty much, yeah. So all 4 of these Chaos Legions are representing one of their gods.
Yes, indeed.
And this god is Tzeentch.
Tzeentch.
The god of magic and trickery and impossible things.
Yes. Loves twisting time and fate, all that kind of stuff.
Change, fate.
Yeah.
Turning
Bird
things,
head.
turning things inside out and back again.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, they are basically Space Marine wizards.
Yes.
Effectively.
With a dark secret or a curse.
Exactly. Yes. So the Rubricae, the Thousand Suns
line infantry.
Yeah, Thousand Suns Space Marines effectively, and their Terminators were cursed by one of their chief librarians, Araman, back in the day. Yeah. In an attempt to save his legion, they were cursed and all turned to dust. So
dust, to be precise, not sand.
Yeah. They're now very obedient walking automata.
Effectively, yeah.
Yeah.
With the power of magic.
Exactly.
Which is excellent.
Yes, they all tend to be led by a sorcerer, which isn't made of dust. They are horribly mutated and very magical. They're like thunderbolts,
bird arms and stuff, and sometimes some beaky motifs.
Yeah,
very cool. I guess like structurally as an army, they sort of work of like the sorcerer's all in charge, and they then command these legions of like walking automata, which is very cool.
Yeah.
And you also feel then guilt-free when you throw all your infantry towards your enemy and they just get blown to
They
bits.
don't feel anything, they're just dust.
They're just dust.
And to dust they will return.
Exactly. All the sorcerers are very much from this realm. They're horribly mutated, full of magic and very cool. There's also quite a lot of more demonic stuff. You've got Zangor, which are their like demonic little cultist type things.
Which are like goats.
They are like goats.
They're pretty much goats.
Like birdie goats.
Bird goats.
Beaked
Boats.
goats.
Yeah.
Boats indeed.
Yeah, some of them fly on discs, as do some of the sorcerers, which is very cool.
Yeah. You do get sorcerer Zangor as well.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. You get like shamans and stuff. But yes, how do they play then with all the like the demonic stuff and wizardry? What are they about playstyle wise?
There's quite a few different ways, isn't there?
There is a few different ways, but the most important thing that really sets them aside from everything else is that they kind of have a psychic phase now.
Yes,
they do.
Which nothing else does, because that was removed in 10th edition, which was very sad for armies like the Thousand Suns, which relied on it, but now it's kind of come back.
Yeah.
It feels like it's been added back in and it's now made the Thousand Suns feel quite special again.
Yes, indeed.
So at the beginning of 10th, when everything got indexed, they did feel a bit like another Space Marine chapter.
Yeah.
Because everything had like psychic shooting weapons, but now they've got like this extra part of the shooting phase where they actually teleport themselves, set off thunderbolts and all that kind of stuff.
And that's kind of the beating heart of the Thousand Suns. Of whilst you do have like your line infantry and massed infantry with bolters and things like that, you do have access to tanks and some heavier firepower, but your play style, I guess, is you have access to these ways of manipulating the flow of the game.
Yeah.
You can really buff up your stuff and move when you shouldn't be able to.
And I think as a result, their playstyle does become quite a finessed one, because you have to be very, very careful about your positioning and where you're going with things and what psychic powers you're going to do in what orders, so that you can really reap the most benefits from it. And that's how the core of the army actually really
Absolutely.
plays
Yes.
well, is if you
100%,
take maximum advantage of those assets that no one else has in the game. And as a result, you do want a lot of characters in this
You
army.
really do, yeah. You want you want to maximize your sorcering output effectively. And I would say almost if you have played never played 40k and you play video games and stuff, think of them in the mage class.
Yes.
There's loads of power there, but it does require finesse. You're not invincible and you need to be careful with your power. And especially after the new book, they've got some really powerful buffs, so you want to be able to get that off. If you have played 40k before and you want to try something totally different, I really like the Thousand Sons for the fact they play so different to other factions.
Yeah, there's nothing else really like them currently.
Especially at the moment, because you do have the Grey Knights, but they still haven't received any of the treatment like the Thousand Sons do now. So I feel right now they feel very unique.
Yeah,
which is super exciting.
With the new codex, there's a few different ways to play them with the new detachments. So you can run full rubrics if you want to go classic sort of look. Traditionally, the Thousand Sons have got a particularly large armory of vehicles.
Yes, they do.
In their lore, and there's more vehicle-heavy detachments as well. So the only legion outside of Vanilla Chaos Space Marines that kind of have a Vindicator, for instance.
Which is very cool.
Yeah, you've got Predators, you've got loads of Demon engines. There's ways of running loads of Zangor if you want to do that as well. You can also mix in the Tzeentch Demons, so blue and pink horrors. You can do some of those characters as well. The huge Lord of Change if you want a centerpiece model. And of course, Big Daddy, Magnus the Red.
Yes.
Which I argue is one of the better Primarchs in the game in terms of his rules.
Gameplay-wise, he's quite strong.
Very
He's
powerful.
a beast. Yes.
Very, very powerful.
Absolutely, because I think especially because Primarchs traditionally are fighty.
Yeah.
Whereas he's magic.
Yeah, he can really be a centerpiece of your army and survive the whole game.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of Primarchs you kind of end up throwing away because you want them in combat.
Yes, exactly. So in terms of that's how they function, what do you expect them to look like on the table?
Well, the cool thing with Thousand Sons is that you can build them in lots of different ways. They're very unique looking. So the rubrics have got their blue and yellow and gold.
They've got the headdress.
Very iconic helmets. The Pharaoh Egyptian look in space is very cool, but you can sort of build them in any way. If you like lots of vehicles, you can do that. If you love the Rubricate and the Terminators, it's very easy to do that as well. You've got some really cool characters. You've got a very unique opportunity to make a completely custom character because the Terminator Sorcerer is strangely a model that doesn't exist at the moment.
Yeah.
But you can make one yourself, which is quite fun.
And I feel like it fits really nicely them being the Tzeentch Legion of you can do a lot of converting and kit bashing with them, of making them look really different because it makes sense for them to look completely different because they're so warped.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the other nice thing is that if you like all of it, you can mix them all together with the Grand Coven detachment. So if you like Rubricate and the Zangor and the vehicles and Magnus and if you want to throw in some Tzeentch Demons and do that other detachment, it's a really nice range.
And I think there's also an amazing, all the Sorcerer kits. And a lot of them,
stunning.
they're really interesting. And you also...
Yu-Gi-Oh guy, he's great.
Yes, you've got the, Infernal Master?
Yes.
You've got lots of options for bird arms and beaks and stuff. And they're a kit bashing dream in terms of making your sorcerers feel unique.
Yeah.
Because you can put them on discs.
Yeah, the Exalted Sorcerer kit is particularly nice. Those three sorcerers are brilliant, and the discs are very cool. The other cool thing from a hobbying perspective, if you just go onto the Thousand Sons wiki and go through all of the sub-factions of Thousand Sons, there's some really cool schemes.
That's cool.
So you can sort of go for I can't remember what they're called, but it's a gold, one silver. You can go for the Heresy red.
The red,
It's like a shiny red, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
like candy apple red.
Yeah, it's cool. And because their armor is so unique, you can really make them your own.
Yes.
It's a
they're
really cool
no matter what kind of scheme you paint them in, you know they're Thousand Sons.
Yeah.
I guess if you've not touched any Thousand Sons, often Combat Patrol is a funny one because it's tried to be sold as its own game, but it's effectively your start collecting box. It gets you a good sort of stuff initially to get started with your army. The start collecting box for the Thousand Sons is...
So you get a Demon Prince in there, you get 10 Rubric Marines, a Zangor Shaman, and 3 Zangor Enlightened, which I think is a good starting point for the army.
That's cool.
You need Rubric Marines.
Yeah.
You just do. The Zangor Enlightened are actually a very cool unit, and they do some cool stuff.
They're very strong in the game as well.
Yeah.
They're one of the best character snipers in the game.
Yeah, so they're a good starting point to put in, and just a Demon Prince is just a classic for any
kind of big character kind of thing.
Yeah, the Demon Prince for Thousands is quite unique because he's the first ever properly psychic Demon Prince, so he really builds into the theme of the army. Cool. And you've got a Tzeentch head in that kit as well, which is awesome.
Very cool. And also, I think you can add on to that quite easily.
Yes, I think this, like I said, I think this is a good starting point, and then from there, that's when you go I want to go and get all these vehicles, I want to go down that list, I want to go more rubrics and Terminators and stuff like that. This is you will always take this stuff.
Yes, exactly.
And then you can add on to it. So it is a good starting point.
Like, obviously you would end up with 2 Demon Princes, but even if you've got like a second box, it's not the end of the world, because you need to have loads of rubrics. Then you could buy like some Scarab Occult Terminators, which are going to be the backbone of a lot of armies.
Yeah. They're very, very good.
A couple of tanks, maybe a big boy Magnus, and
some of your sorcerer characters, just like one-offs.
And you can just sprinkle them in. Yeah, amazing.
Beautiful. Today's video is brought to you thanks to the support of our on-demand members, and this week we have a huge release schedule coming up. Available right now is our second Thousand Suns battle report with their new codex, featuring their Primarch Magnus the Red, as well as our full in-depth analysis of the codex with Spider, Chef and Beard. We've created our own 5th Demon Primarch of Chaos Undivided in this week's extra battle report, as the Iron Warriors take on the Imperial Fists. And on Friday, Fletcher is back again, delivering a fresh coat of paint to the Thousand Suns Sectar robots in our latest painting tutorial. And get ready for this weekend as we usher in the Space Wolves with our Codex review dropping at 10 AM on Saturday, as well as on-demand member early access to our review of the 2025 mission pack before it lands on YouTube next Wednesday. And new members can benefit from our current offer for new subscribers, so there's never been a better time to join on demand. Thanks for watching. Let's get back to the show.
World Eaters. Now this is very much the antithesis to the Thousand Suns. If you don't like wizards in RPGs and you want to punch them with your big fists, this is the way to do it.
No think, all fight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the World Eaters, they worship Khorne, which is the lord
the blood god.
The blood god. Like, this is probably if you don't know what the World Eaters are and you play 40k, you probably know what the World Eaters are. You'll hear people scream
blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne.
And if you haven't played 40k, you probably have been aware of them even inadvertently. They're quite a popular faction.
It's also like very much your stereotypical like demonic thing. Like if you go into other IPs and it's like, there's like a demon worshipping cult. It's like there's going to be lots of blood and murder and violence. Which is cool.
They're probably like the most akin to if you're into like Doom and want to play like the baddies, and it's all like violence and evil and anger. That's their whole vibe.
Yeah.
Probably closest to human nature as well.
Violence. They also, for my money, potentially have one of the most tragic of the curses bestowed upon. I mean, we'll come to my favourite next. But I think, so the idea is World Eaters is one, they're so angry, they have this thing called the Butcher's Nails, right? Which is effectively implants in their brain that more or less when they're not fighting or killing,
they're in pain.
They're in pain.
Yeah.
So they're driven to madness and violence and all-out warfare, basically. They're big, red, angry boys,
Certainly
effectively.
They're led up by Angron.
They are led by
Angron is their Primarch. He's a very, very angry boy. He's got the Butcher's Nails dialed up to 11. His story is very tragic.
He the most empathetic of all the Primarchs.
He did. He was unfortunately trapped in a gladiatorial pit.
Yeah.
And kind of learnt his nature from there, and then that's where the Butcher's Nails came from, and he just became an unending pit of rage that no one can contain.
And that's why they're your favourite.
And that's why they're my favourite. I love them so much. There's so much fun to them.
But how do they play then? Effectively, my layman's understanding is go forth and murder.
Yeet.
Yes.
Very much.
Yeet, but with some sense of
Decorum.
Yeah. So they are very much, they want to be in combat. They don't have a lot of shooting. You can take things that help them out. Like you can take Forge Fiends, you can take like a Land Raider, which is very good for keeping them safe, and other like Hell Brutes, things that can support them shooty-wise. But they really are there just to support your combat units. So you've got some really strong combat units in here. Obviously, the hallmark of the World Eaters are the Khorne Berserkers.
Yes, indeed.
They are a classic with their chain axes and Moidorous Rage. They have a really cool mechanic in the game where if you shoot them and any of the units, models in the unit die, they move towards you.
Which is very
And
cool.
they can end in combat.
Which is really quite
So
nice.
they are just trying to get in combat, but they are squishy, so you need to keep them safe. So the other thing you have a lot of is rhinos and land raiders to keep them safe. And that's where a more finesse comes into the World Eaters of, yes, you want to move them forward, you got to keep them safe so they don't just die.
You want to have lots of armoured transports. You want to deliver them to where they need to go. There is a little, like, I think, of the newer books, there's a little bit of like some strangeness with the World Eaters, but they have gained a cool thing, which all their guns are rapid fire all the time.
Yep.
So they're less accurate and more just sheer weight of firepower. and just carnage being unleashed onto
from
the battlefield.
from a gameplay perspective, it fits very well with their fluff. I feel like they play how they should.
Yeah.
There are some people that maybe don't like it, but I think it's great. There is a lot of different detachments that you can use. So you've got ones to buff up your berserkers, you've got ones to buff up your 8-bound, which are slightly chunkier.
Yeah, they're kind of like,
They're like
demon-infused space marines.
Yeah, they're not Terminators, they're not berserkers.
Yeah.
They're very, very good in
Something
combat.
between.
You've got your transport-based one, which is that armoured tracks and getting up and protecting them really nicely, and there's some really cool shenanigans with them. And of course, you can ally in Khorne demons.
Which are very cool.
There's also another detachment which revolves around their cultists.
Oh,
which
yes.
is the jackals.
Yes.
And the
Goremongers.
Goremongers.
They're
Yep.
new.
They're on stilts.
As well as one of the coolest Chaos Space Marine vehicles in the game, the Khorne Lord of Skulls.
Oh, I can't believe I forgot about him.
The Wild Eaters have been bestowed upon them one of the most brutal demon
machines.
engines
Yeah.
in the galaxy.
It's also like the coolest looking model.
Yeah, it's basically an Imperial Knight on top of a tank with a giant axe and an array of rapid fire guns.
That shoot skulls.
Gameplay wise, it is absolutely brutal.
Oh, it's so good.
If you want to cause your opponent some exciting death, bring a Khorne Lord of Skulls.
Yeah.
You've also got a mechanic with your Primarch, Angron, who is basically, unlike Magnus, who is all magic. He just wants to get in there and...
Yeah, he's got no range. He's literally just...
all combat.
he's all
And
combat.
he
No,
will...
all fist.
All fist, yeah. He will eviscerate whatever he gets into combat with.
Yeah.
But he also has a cool mechanic that he can come back from the dead, which
Yeah.
is very fun. So if he does die, which he will when you throw him into your enemy, you can then, with your Blessings of Khorne, resurrect him from the dead, which is
Which is
super
a
cool.
very, very, very cool mechanic.
With the advent of the new book, you can take Berserkers now in 20s. Which is
Yes.
very fun. So I would say now more than ever, you do want those transports, but again, maybe more so than the Thousand Suns, you're going to want a lot of infantry because
Yeah,
you're going to
it
want a
is-
lot of that killing power.
More of a horde army, I think.
Yeah.
Because of that, and that does...
They weren't always
pose some interesting-
traditionally like that, so that might change, but your Jackals, your Berserkers, you want all those infantry. You've got your 8-bound, which are like your big infantry, and then you probably want to protect them with like Land Raiders and Rhinos and stuff. So less artillery and more delivery systems for your combat, I suppose.
Yeah, the Jackals are probably a bit less throwaway than some of the other cultist units in the Chaos Legions. Like they can Barney a bit if they want to, or you can take them in smaller squads, or you can use the Goremongers. The Goremongers to do like secondary objectives and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some interesting play with them. for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. But otherwise, their overall vibe is go forth, yeet.
Yes, yeet
So-
with a little bit of restraint and sensible in thinking, because if you go full yeet like me, you do just end up dying.
And slaughter.
With slaughter.
There's no restraint.
Murder, and no one is ever sad when World Eaters are brought to the table, because
Good
they're
fun.
just fun.
They are good fun.
Where would one get started?
So, the Combat Patrol, you've got Demon Prince, you've got Jackals, you've got Berserkers, and you've got Master of Executions.
Yeah.
Which is
Oh, don't get me started on the Master of Executions. Everything else in that is perfect. You would take a lot of those regardless. As you mentioned, you're going to be wanting to take a lot of Khorne Berserkers. So from a hobby perspective, you are going to be painting a lot of infantry, and there is a lot of trim on these. So you do need to be prepared for that and have a solid plan for whether you're going to paint the trim first or last.
yes, this is
Yes.
very true.
It's quite a good box actually. If you wanted to buy multiple of them, it's a really good way
Oh god,
to get
yes.
started.
You can really use multiple things in this. The only thing I have with the Master of Executions is he used to, before the book came out, give you fights first. He doesn't do that anymore. So it feels a bit cheeky that they've put him in here, but
Yeah.
it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. You've got Berserkers, and that makes me happy. And then, all you'd add to this really is your transports and then artillery pieces if that's what you want to be using. Like, I do love a Hellbrute
And a Khorne Lord of Skulls.
and a Khorne Lord of Skulls.
We then come to the Death Guard.
My favourite.
I think my favourite too of the Mono Gods. They're somewhere between the World Eaters and the Thousand Suns. Thousand Suns is all about your magic and your sorcery, and World Eaters is like, well, one thing we forgot to mention is World Eaters hate magic.
Oh, God,
they're all
yeah, they
against
absolutely
it.
cannot
So
stand it.
you're not going to get any magic in the World Eaters if that's what you want, or if that is what you want, then you go. These guys are somewhere in between. They have a little bit of sorcery. They've got quite a lot of combat. They're good at shooting, but what they have is they are Nurgle's chosen.
They are.
Please for me. Describe what Nurgle is.
So Nurgle is the plague god.
The plague god.
The death guard, in reverie of the plague god, enjoy spreading contagion.
They do indeed.
And death and decay.
Yep.
And they basically shrivel up their enemies like grapes.
Yes.
And then step on them.
And yes.
So it's sort of a bit...
Turning them into a disgusting wine.
Yeah, so they sort of like they use Nurgle magic to spread the corruption, and then when they are corrupted, they can either shoot them from a distance or pummel them into the ground.
Yes.
Much like a grape.
Yeah, much like a grape,
Yeah.
turning it into meat wine.
Yeah.
They also are, because they are Nurgle's chosen, have been bestowed with the gifts of like disease and pestilence, makes them incredibly resilient.
Yes.
So whilst you might think, oh, they're all withered and decaying, it's because they don't care. So they are gross, if that as an aesthetic from a grim dark perspective, they are hideous to behold.
Yeah.
Which does give them a very unique feel.
Yeah.
And I think their mechanics are very, very interesting because they are effectively, you kind of just want to go,
Yeah. So they're slow and purposeful.
Yes.
They are as the pestilence and contagion grow, so does their power.
Yeah.
Partially because the enemy is being weakened and withered, and that's the way that Nurgle likes to flow.
It is indeed.
Yes.
How they play then, they are very powerful right now.
Yeah.
They're probably the strongest of these books that have come out recently.
I would say so.
So across the course of a game, their contagion will grow. And the range of the ability to take the toughness away from your enemy will increase as the game continues.
Yeah.
You can, with certain units, spread contagion from a distance. So Plague Marines, being like the classic infantry unit, can shoot the enemies from a distance and spread contagion that way.
Yes.
There's ways of then increasing contagion as well with certain psychic characters that can buff and debuff enemy units as well. So it's sort of a slow, steady approach to the impending doom of your enemy.
It's a really unique mechanic as well because you kind of, as an opponent, are really damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like either you head towards them and try and deal with them early, but then the closer you get to them, the weaker you become.
Yep.
And then if you don't deal with them, they just sort of claim the boards into a filthy miasma.
And the interesting thing with Death Guys is that they have one of the most accomplished, well, they have the most accomplished range out of all four.
Absolutely.
They've got an enormous range.
Huge.
Yeah,
So
they've
if you really want to get lost in a super unique model range, I don't think there's any, maybe even faction better than the Death Guard.
They've got the Plague Marines, like I mentioned. They've got a couple of different Terminator units, both shooting and very combat focused. You've got loads of characters and several where you can have a couple of characters join because they have so many, so you can have different abilities.
Also unique characters as well, so they don't all look the same. It's not like they have like, I have Deathman. It's like you've got not just Blightbringers, Plaguecasters, like biologists and stuff. It's very cool.
Yeah, even in the units themselves, the Plague Marines, the basic unit, there's a lot of variety between model to model, which is like you just don't see in any of the factions.
They've got several different range weapons. You've got several different melee weapons. You've got your Poxwalkers, which are your cultist type things,
Which
which
are
are
like zombies, effectively.
Zombies,
And they can create more zombies, can't they?
They can.
So cool.
If they destroy the enemy infantry, they become zombies, which is very cool. They've got their own unique demon engines. Quite a few of them. You've got the Plague Burst Crawlers. You've got the Bloat Drones. You've got the little.
My
Mythic
Blight Haulers.
Yes. Thank you. And then you have Big Daddy Mortari.
Mortarion.
Their
He's
Primarch.
very cool.
Yeah.
I think he's probably my favourite of the demon Primarchs in terms of just lore. I think he's just poor guy. It's not good.
Another tragic tale.
Another tragic tale.
Who'd have thunk it?
And I think there's something about Nurgle that if like often when you're picking like Chaos, you are effectively kind of picking the villains.
Yeah.
Like you do like. It is fun if you play Space Marines or you've played other factions. It's nice to then have like, you know, when you're a kid and you have like, I've got my Luke Skywalker, but you also really want a Darth Vader, right?
Yeah.
You want to have the villain to play with your goodies.
Yeah.
I think they're a fascinatingly interesting villain.
Yes.
Because they're not overtly super evil.
Well, you can, if you're thinking about the look of your army, you can go one of two ways.
Yes.
You can go very, very creepy, hyper-corrupted, disgusting, tentacles, bloated disease, or you can go on like the more jolly side of Nurgle, which is depicted in the lore. You can have little Nurglings like dancing around.
Cute.
They are kind of fun in a way, but if you want them to be grim, you can make them
But
real
what
grim.
I do like about that is that it can appeal to different types of people. Like it can appeal to the people that really like grimdark, and it can also appeal to the people that want to go more down the like, oh, they're just cute little scamps.
And if you want a cool piece of lore to go with these cute little scamps, is that half of the reason why they're so effective is that Nurgle's gift is that you are in horrid constant pain because you're sick and diseased, but he also infects your mind.
Yeah, they're very laid back.
So the Plague Marines themselves, they're just having a wonderful time. They're seeing all these happy little go-lucky creatures running around. They're like, yeah, this is great. But then their opponents are like, this is the most horrifying thing I've ever seen because my arms are melting off. Like it's a really fascinating. Some of their artwork, like there's a famous one of Typhus. They're like, I guess like their main like lieutenant or main general. He's holding up a towel and he's just decomposing him in his hand. It's like hideous stuff. But they've got a beautiful model range and they're just really fun to play, I think, at the moment. And I think they've always been fun to play.
They've always been fun to play.
Consistently interesting.
Yeah, there's been instances where they've been a bit too spicy. They're pretty good now in 10th edition. They've got some very strong rules. They're not like inherently broken. No. But if you want like a really strong, really flexible, loads of different options kind of faction to pick, they're very good.
I think a lot of longevity as well because of their uniqueness of their range.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to get replaced because they're all quite new models and have been well thought out, so you're in a good position there.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, their Combat Patrol.
Yeah, so in the Combat Patrol, you get a full squad of 10 Plague Marines with all of the options, of which there are many.
Yeah.
You've got a Tallyman, which is a auto-included the army as a character because he generates command points. You've got a Rhino to deliver the Plague Marines, which has an insane rule where if you shoot an enemy unit and the Plague Marine unit shoots them after they disembark, they can reroll their wounds. They're very strong. You've then got 3 of the Death Shroud Terminators, which are an incredibly potent combat unit, and you also have a
Lord of Virulence.
Lord of Virulence.
That is such a good combat patrol.
It's very good. Lord of Virulence doesn't really fit with the Death Shroud, weirdly, but
everything else is really good in that.
It's cool as well because what you would probably want to do is you could get 2, again, a lot of these combat troops you could get double, and then you've got like a good basis for an army, because the Death Shroud are like they're supposed to be Mortarian's bodyguard.
Yep.
So they're like super combat Terminators. And then there's also Blight Lord Terminators, which are more your shooty Terminators.
Yep.
Again, completely unique sculpts and completely unique units.
Yep.
So again, you could get a couple of these kits, get yourself a Lord of Contagion, which is like a choppy Terminator Lord.
Yep.
And maybe Typhus, and then you're away.
I like that it's got the transport in it.
Yes,
because I feel like you're always going to have transports in these armies to keep things safe. I think like the one I tend to not have a transport in is maybe Thousand Suns, but everything else you are using them a lot, so it's good that that's
especially because they're a bit slow and ponderous. You want to get them up the board where you want them.
And then once you've got all your infantry sorted out, just get a bunch of Demon Engines.
Oh yeah.
And
Beautiful.
maybe Mortarian if you're feeling spicy.
We then have the Emperor's Children, brand new army.
New kids on the block.
New kids on the block. Now, they've been around in the lore for a very, very long time, and they are like sort of they were the fourth god, the one that was always missing for a while.
They've had like rules in the Chaos Space Marine book, but now they finally have their own book, so all of the gods are finally here.
Together. Now, I will say this is probably more of a either if you're super into the niche or super into the fluff, then that is for you. It's not necessarily a beginner-friendly army, I wouldn't say.
Yeah,
in terms
maybe.
of play style.
In terms of play style, obviously it's your aesthetic and you're into it. You go crazy. But yes, they are. I guess Slanesh is their god.
Yes, so
God of excess.
God of excess.
The Emperor's Children have fallen to Slanesh, and where every other kind of story is quite tragic, the Emperor's Children kind of revel in it.
Yes,
they love being
Sexy
chaotic.
story, isn't it?
In many ways.
They're the
tragic.
Legion of Excess. Excuse me.
Yes.
So they are everything cranked up to 11.
Yes, they are indeed, yeah.
You will get your classic Noise Marines in here because to them they make beautiful, beautiful music. To everyone else it is incredibly loud screeching and they cannot understand it.
Yes.
It makes other people's ears bleed. But to them it is perfection. You have Fulgrim at the head.
Yes, he is the Primarch. And I think one of the things with, I guess, imagine like Hellraiser and stuff, it's all a bit, there's kind of body horror and weirdness, because whilst they are striving for perfection. It's like a twisted kind of perfection. So there's
They're
lots
always
of...
trying to push beyond.
Yes, there's lots of creepy, like, do you like my face? And it's like, that's not your face, is it, Emperor's Children, man?
Yeah,
very creepy.
They've got a very cool aesthetic. You sort of see it. You see it a bit with like the battle line units, but then as you get up to the more elite units, like the Flawless Blades, it all starts unraveling. They become even more twisted.
Yeah.
To them, it is perfect. Everyone else is like, oh, what have you done to
What's
yourself?
really interesting about this is, like, yes, they've got the demonic warping, but they have also done this to themselves.
Well,
like, they enhance themselves through surgery to do separate things, and that's creepy.
There's loads of really cool references in the lore, like little paragraphs about all the different like drugs that they take.
Yeah.
So there's references to like ground up like Xenos bone, which they inject into their eyeballs and become crystalline or something.
Yeah.
There's some really wacky
And then I
stuff
think as
in
the
there.
crystals grow in their brain, it like elongates their heads.
Yeah.
So
and
they got
stuff.
like cone heads and stuff.
Yeah, because you
it's
can see
weird.
that in the Flawless Blades, and then you have ones that have like had speakers surgically inserted into their mouths,
Yeah.
so they create music.
Yeah.
And it is just really, really horrific. It's
quite
proper
appalling, yeah.
body horror, but
yeah.
like not in the same way Nurgle is. It's more like, oh, you've done that to yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's really, really unsettling.
Yeah, there's a really twisted nature to what the Emperor's Children are, which is like they have, like you say, they've done this to themselves and just strive for
There's
this
no
really twisted
humanity
perfection.
left
Yeah.
there.
But
It's
they've
just
done it
beauty.
In the model design, it's really interesting because although the Flawless Blades are quite hideous, they also have excellent posture.
Yes. Yeah.
Like they're so straight up.
Yes.
It's amazing. And they've got like heels on
can,
their
like,
boots.
Imagine watching them fight would be like watching a dance.
Yeah.
Like that's what they're like,
Yeah,
and that's
they're-
what's creepy.
In some ways, they are quite beautiful, but
Yeah.
in some ways, they really aren't.
So from a playstyle perspective, they're quite quick, the Emperor's Children.
They are quick. They are quite complicated.
Yes, they are,
So they
yes.
have their main army rule is effectively you can fall back, advance and charge, but it gives you restrictions about what you can then shoot and charge at.
Yes.
So that's where the complication comes in. You have to really pay attention to what you're doing and plan out your turn right at the beginning to know what you're doing.
It's a powerful mechanic, but it's definitely a finesse.
Yes, you have
army.
to know what you're doing, and if you struggle with that or struggle with the planning part of it, you're not going to be able to use it to its full advantage,
Yes.
and it can be a bit tricky.
You've got to be very careful with the Emperor's Children because they are supposed to be like playful in the fact they like almost like play with their food. If you know what I mean? So there's lots of like, oh, I'm bored of this combat now, so I would like to engage into a new combat. So their mechanic is lots of you can fall back, but you can't re-engage.
Instead
you have
of
to go
like
somewhere else.
a Death Star, it's death by 1,000 cuts.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. One of their main things and main power is in their noise marines because that is kind of their main shooting.
Yes.
What I will say is, as of release, unlike the other books that have been around for a long time and established and have lots of an arsenal of chaos stuff, it's a very limited range. The Emperor's Children.
Yes, for whatever reason, there is a lot of units that are in the rest of the Chaos books that are not in this one, so you don't get access to things like Hellbrutes, Predators,
Fiends.
Forge Fiends.
But you get Mauler Fiends.
You get Mauler Fiends.
and a Helldrake.
And Helldrake.
Helldrake.
You do get a Land Raider, you do get Rhinos, you do have some of the basic things for transportation stuff.
But as a result, your main shooting is either a Land Raider or Noise Marines.
It's going to be a
There's
Noise
not-
Marines, yeah.
Luckily, though, the Noise Marines are quite good.
They're very,
They're
very
very
good.
good.
They're, you could say like a lot of what you're going to be doing with the Noise Marines is just keeping them in Rhinos and shooting out the top.
Yes,
Because
indeed.
they're very, very good. And then just using cover and other transports to your advantage to get your melee up the field because your melee is also incredibly strong.
Yes, indeed. Then in terms of what to expect from a starting perspective, they do have a combat
They do.
patrol. It's a little bit strange.
But I think that's as a result of the army having such a limited range.
I agree, yes.
So you've got a Lord Exultant in here, you've got 10 Infractors, and then 2 units of 3 Flawless Blades, so 6 Flawless Blades in total.
So it's quite combat focused.
It's very, very combat focused. Now the advantage of this is you pointed out, is you can buy 3 of these boxes and use every single model.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
which is
you
cool.
would use every single model in your army, or even just 2, and then supplementing it with Land Raiders, Rhinos, Noise Marines, maybe a Demon Prince, you're done.
Well, the Emperor's
Maybe
Children
Fulgrim, you're
Demon
done.
Prince is
The
the best.
best.
Demon Prince
Yes.
rules wise.
Yes.
So it would be you'd be encouraged to get a Demon
So
Prince.
you
to
get
run
a
as
Demon
your army, for
Prince,
sure.
get Land Raiders to put your Flawless Blades in,
Yeah.
get Rhinos and Noise Marines.
Yeah.
you're done.
You're going to
That's
want a
your
lot of
army.
noise marines with this army, and I think partially
Maybe
why
Lucius.
there's more flawless blades in this combat patrol is in the army box when it launched had loads of noise marines.
Yes.
So maybe there's an element of because they're new kids on the block, like the delivery of the releases has been like if you have bought the big box, you buy this box and you've got more of an army.
Yeah.
They're really interesting. Lots of new people are probably coming to this army. So if you haven't already invested in Chaos or you want to dip in, there's lots of people probably going on a hobby journey with you. So that's quite an exciting thing for the Emperor's
I
Children
think
fans.
this is the most accessible I think Emperor's Children has ever been to start collecting.
Yes, absolutely. And I think also, it's a whole army people have wanted for ages, but it's now here.
It is incredibly fun as well. When I played them, it feels like you are playing a game and you're being tricksy and you're being a bit like...
That's their whole vibe, I suppose, isn't it? Yeah. Tricksy little people. That is all 4 of the mono gods. So they are all the factions within Chaos that worship one singular god. But there is, as Katie loves to refer to them as, the spare legions. This is more commonly referred to as Chaos Undivided.
Yeah.
Now, if there's anything within these tomes that is too specialist for you, but you like the idea of Chaos, but you kind of just want to be like naughty Space Marines, then there is Chaos Space Marines et al.
Yeah.
Headed up by the War Master.
Yeah.
Hezekiah Abaddon.
So you could say that the Chaos Space Marines are Black Legion.
Yes.
Which is a massive warband that got together after the heresy, and it's sort of a mix of everything, basically. When everything fractured, Abaddon brought everyone back around again.
All the spares.
Yes.
And that can include sorcerers from the Thousand Suns. It can include berserker warbands from...
A bit of everything.
Bit of everything, yeah.
Now, if you don't vibe with the 4 Chaos Gods, and if you don't like the idea of being a slave to the Chaos Gods, James and Katie... you can be Undivided. And this basically represents the extra 5 legions, which are Night Lords, Iron Warriors, Alpha Legion, Word Bearers, and... Oh, Black Legion.
Black Legion, yeah.
Black Legion. And it can represent any warband you like. It can be any of the successor warbands. It can literally
you can create your own. Based on anything.
Yeah, if you want to be sort of like magic focused, you could do that. If you want to be possessed mutants, you can do that. If you want to be siege warfare, you can do that.
If you just want to be like renegades.
Space pirates, you can literally do whatever you want. Chaos Space Marines have probably got, they do have the biggest model range.
Yes, they do.
Out of any of the Chaos factions, and they are just, for me, a really fun DIY kind of vibe.
Yes, I think if you're into the idea of Space Marines, but they're a bit too clean cut for you. Black Legion or Chaos Space Marines are like the dark foil to regular Space Marines.
You can literally do whatever you want with them, from the models you pick, from how you build them, how you paint them, how you play them. You can literally do whatever you want with them.
Which is really cool. They're awesome. They've got some amazing fluff and lore, and I guess they've been the probably longest running villain. They've had the most impact on the world. They've destroyed a whole planet.
I mean, they're literally the Horus Heresy.
Yes, they are effectively, Yes, exactly.
That was them.
That was them.
That was those guys.
They did that,
There's heaps of books about lots of different war bands. You've got Iron Warriors ones. You've got Black Legion's a really great series.
Fantastic series.
I've heard like the Night Lords books are some of the best.
Yes, they're really good.
Warhammer books.
And in the absence of certain things, you've got more access to things like jump pack troops.
Yes.
You've got more demon engines. You can use things like a Khorne Lord of Skulls. And not have it be Khorne if you want to. You've got
an Iron Warriors one.
Exactly. You've got tons of character support. You've got loads of infantry options. It's a very wide remit of units, so you can really make whatever you want it to be with Chaos Space Marines. And they do have like a pseudo Primarch, I guess, in Abaddon. He's not quite as potent as some of the other 4, but he can Barney. He's pretty good.
He's not a demon Primarch. He's just basically the leader of the Black Legion. The War Master. He used to be very, very tasty. He does sometimes pop up with some serious power. But it ebbs and flows, and that's really cool. But they are kind of more of a blank slate for create your own flavour of chaos, which is really fun.
And you've also got the option of like playing around a little bit. If you are kind of beginning your journey and you're not sure what you want, you don't quite want to commit to one of the 4 gods, you've got the options of the different detachments, so you can play around with those play styles and see what you want before going down that.
And there's loads of flavour within all the detachments and play styles and stuff, so it's great. It's really good stuff.
And they're all fun.
They're all very, very fun indeed. But that is effectively the sort of last option not last option, but you know what I mean. Like sort
It
of
is the last option because nothing else matters.
Join Chaos or die.
what you could do is join the loyal Sons of the Imperium.
Nerds.
Excuse me.
Yes, stout-hearted nerds at
Behold my model range and weep.
I can paint mine different colours. But yes, that is effectively sort of a whistle-stop tour
Yeah.
of the 4 Mono Gods and the Black Legion and sort of the overarching Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah.
And I think now that all 4 of the gods are out, it's a really good time to get invested into Chaos, whether you've never played 40k before or have always thought about, I could probably give it a go.
Yeah, there's some really fun research you can do in terms of choosing your first Chaos Legion, or your second or your third. All the wikis online have got, there's so much thick lore out there, as we know, and so many stories of different legions and warbands and stuff. You can really find something that you vibe with quite nicely on the internet machine.
Which is
so,
cool.
there's some good research to do and lots of references to go by.
So, to round us out then, if we had to pick one as a new army to start, what would you pick and why?
Out of the 4,
5, effectively.
oh, don't do
I think
that.
do the 4, because 5 is too much. He's already fallen to Iron Warriors.
This is
Have you
true.
seen how many spaces he takes up in our
He is an Iron
cabinets?
Warriors player, so you are traditionally a Chaos Space Marine player.
Yeah, and the reason why is that when I first got back into the hobby, I didn't really vibe with any of the gods. This was before any of the 4 got reintroduced, to be fair. But I liked the ability to sort of put in whatever I felt like as my next hobby project. So, I'll do some Raptors for some uppy down infantry. I'll do this massive demon engine. I'll do Terminators. You can do whatever you want. But if I had to choose out the 4, it would be Death Guard.
I would have to choose World Eaters because they fit my play style. I like painting red and they're really fun.
I would go Death Guard as well. I think Death Guard are my favourite. I think they've got my favourite model range. And I think some of my favourite models in the whole of 40k.
Yeah.
So I think this is great. They're a good fun time and they've always been good.
There's something for everyone, isn't there? Oh, Chaos are so good.
Do you know what we should ask?
What?
We should ask everyone what they're going to do.
Yeah, what's
And the correct answer is the light of the Emperor. Stay strong out there and hold the line. But yes, do jump into the comments. Are you tempted to start a new Chaos God? Is this the year of Chaos?
Yes.
I certainly think it will be an inspirational year for a lot of people wanting to jump in because it feels more cohesive now. It feels like, not finished, but like they're all out now.
Yeah.
There's never been that question mark of when are they going to do Emperor's Children? It's all there. It's all ready to be explored. So do tell us in the comments what you're thinking about. Which ones are your favourite legions? Do you already have one of each? Are you a crazy Chaos collector and have all the legions?
And all the demons.
And all the demons. Yeah, let us know in the comments. Until next time, I've been James Jordan, aka The Bard. I've been joined by Katie Fode,
Bye.
Jinx, and Chaos Lord Beard, Joe Pointing. We've been Tabletop Tactics. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.